You know, all of our lives and all of our families, we have great times of joy and sometimes great times of sadness. According to the National Institute of Aging, Alzheimer's disease is an irreversible, progressive brain disease that slowly destroys memory and thinking skills and eventually the ability to carry out the simplest of tasks. I'm sure we've all been part of a family or part of loved ones that have gone through such an extensive, debilitating, taking away their faculties. Hi, welcome to the Catholic Corner. As you know, I'm Monsignor Walter Nolan. My guest today is all too familiar with Alzheimer's disease, Diane Currie. And welcome, Diane. Thank you so much for being with us. Diane journeyed with her mother, Millie Currie, through the progression of Alzheimer's disease for nearly 7 years. Long time. Diane is the author of a book, Before My Eyes. Her book is a series of reflections about her experience with her mom's disease. Gosh, welcome again, though, Diane. Thank you so much. I can just see, just talking about it kind of puts you back a little bit, huh? Tell me about your book, Before My Eyes. It's a marvelous title. Where did the title come from, and why did you write it, and all that kind of thing?
Ironically, the title came about because I had chosen the photo first. I found a beautiful photo, wedding photo of my mother looking at herself in the mirror. And from there, I needed to create a title. I had the content of the book as well. And the first title I came up with, the publisher said, you might want to think of another title. So I was thinking about the photo and my mother looking in the mirror, and I realized she was changing before my eyes. And she had changed from that woman that we had known to someone we sometimes didn't even recognize. So I wrote the book. It was therapeutic for me to write the book. It was a very therapeutic process. It helped me to deal with the grieving and the loss that I was experiencing over the years. But I also wanted to help other people. I felt that by sharing my journey, I would help others, other caregivers. There's millions of caregivers dealing with loved ones who have Alzheimer's. And I was hoping that it would help them, that they would be able to relate and to understand to the journey as well.
And I'm glad you did that. That it's so beneficial for all of us, I think, to be in dialogue with someone. And sometimes we have people we can talk to. Some people don't have people they can talk to, or they don't know how to start the conversation. And I also found out in life sometimes that some people just think, oh, it's me. I'm the only one that's going through this experience. We're all brothers and sisters in some way, and we all go through these experiences, And have you had anybody call you up or read the book and say, gee, thanks a million, or can we have coffee and talk a little more?
I have. I've actually have some new friends that have come into my life as a result of the book, caregivers, medical personnel that have read the book, and they've emailed me. I've met a couple of them for lunch. They've become friends, comrades, and they were so touched by the book. And I was so taken aback because the book fulfilled the purpose that I wanted. I wanted to touch people's hearts. And I felt that it did that because then I got to hear their stories. And they were like, Diane, this is exactly what I went through with my father, my mother, or my brother. And they're telling me their stories as well. And that's very healing for me, for all of us,
Sure.
To know we're not alone
Sure.
in the journey.
And I don't know, even with the opening, saying hello to our folks who watch our program, it touches all of our lives in some way, shape, or form. If it's not Alzheimer's, there's something else that maybe is similar, not so similar, but it's still a parent or a loved one, and it hurts a lot. Now tell me a little about Mom. Mom's name was Millie?
Yeah, her name was Millie.
I already know that she was a beautiful bride because you found her picture looking in the mirror or something like that.
Yeah.
Tell me about Mom and where she grew up and what she was like.
She grew up in Trenton, New Jersey, in the city. She was a great mother, She raised I have two older siblings, and she was a homemaker. Basically worked, she worked for a while, and then when she had my oldest brother, she decided to raise the children, and she was a very faith-filled woman, and that's what I remember most about her. Her life centered around her church, volunteering in the church, in the school that we attended. She also was a very sociable person. She volunteered for the local county elections, gave her time on that, and she really was a fun-loving person, really liked to be around people, to socialize, family gatherings and parties, so an independent person as well. You know, she was not afraid to take on new things and meet new people. So.
Now, when was Mother born? How old was she when?
She was 75 years old when she was diagnosed with
Okay.
Alzheimer's.
Okay.
Yeah. Had been healthy all of her life up until that point.
When did you first see some signs, and what were the early signs?
You know, in retrospect, I think back that we missed a lot of early signs, and I think a lot of families do. You tend to miss the early warning signs because you're either too close to the person or the person's good at compensating early on for the disease. They know that something's happening and they can adapt. They try to, write little notes or, and that's early on, and eventually the compensation ends and they forget to compensate. So, but with my mother, in retrospect, I think some of the things we noticed was increased episodes of forgetting. She would, forget to book important events, or even that the event was occurring, like a celebration, and those increased. The forgetful moments increased. There was also like a compulsiveness to her, compulsive shopping. She was doing a lot of shopping. Also, her personality changed. I started to notice that.
In what way?
In her case, she actually became very sweet and docile. She was always a very lively, opinionated, kind of outgoing person, and she became just much more withdrawn, very sweet, social, quiet, withdrawn at times. And we started to kind of put the pieces together and say, something's happening here. Something's not right.
It is amazing from my little experience how they do cover up. It just seems that they have a way of almost saying, "Oh, you know the answer anyway," or something like that. They always have a way of not wanting you to worry, I guess, or not wanting you to realize. Yeah. But these early signs, I mean, other early signs that you from some of your friends or however you talk, what would some other signs be for other people to think about?
Some of the early signs are the person will often have trouble with counting money. They may not be able to count money as they used to in the past. Episodes of forgetfulness, personality changes are definitely a sign. There's a whole host of them, and they vary from person to person, but those are some of the very common ones. Poor judgment. And starts to become a confusion on the time in the day. So those are some of the early signs to...
Tell me that when you see with Mom or others, how does it progress?
In my mother's case, it progressed very quickly. Now, I've had people come to me and tell me their stories and say, well, in my case, it didn't, occur with my parent that quickly. It varies. My mother progressed very quickly.
Now, what do you mean by very quickly?
It started with the episodes of forgetting. Then I noticed a withdrawal from life, where she stopped going to church. She stopped going to the bank, doing her normal daily activities. Then there was the lack of self-care. She was not changing her clothing anymore, not bathing, not eating. She was eating the same foods. And going back to early signs, it's one of the signs also. They tend to eat the same thing over and over again. They crave sweets. She was eating a lot of chocolate, and she was craving the same type of food and nothing else. And then from there, it just really snowballed. She became incontinent, was not really speaking much anymore, would repeat a word. Like if you said something to her, she would parrot the word back to you and say the same thing, repeating questions, asking you the same thing over and over again. An obsession with keys in her purse. She would put her key down on the table and say, "Where's my key?" And 2 minutes later, the same question, "Where's my key?" So those were some of the symptoms, and they increased and intensified to the point where we needed to look at a facility for her safety.
Sure. Now, were you living at home with her at the time, or were you just visiting Mom, or how was that?
I lived nearby, so it was
Okay.
about 15 minutes from my mom.
So you saw her every day? And
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Wow. When you had to take her to a facility? Not easy.
No, I say it's the worst day of my life. There's the decision to put a loved one in facility is never easy, you know, and I never judged anyone, but when I took my mother to that facility, I said I was the worst judge of myself because I felt like I was abandoning her. You know, you as a caretaker, you want to do all that you can to care for the person, to keep them safe, to keep them well. But there comes a point sometimes when that person needs 24-hour care. And it was a very memorable day. It was a hard day. It was a very hard day.
It must be, in some sense, and I would hope others can feel this, because I think there's a part of human nature that has a little guilt button in it. And sometimes that gets pushed. And I've always liked to tell people, you know, where that guilt button comes from. Maybe it comes from our parents when we were little kids and said, you know, good boys are bad boys and good girls are bad girls. But sometimes I think it's just a question of saying, you know, we can, in our minds, know that moms or dads or somebody needs protection, but just for themselves. But it's just something to say, you know, gosh, you know, am I taking away their freedom? Or I would imagine certain things, I don't know if it would be like your mom, but sometimes like taking away the car keys. Because that's a symbol of their independence, and it's a symbol of their own freedom, you know?
Sure.
And those are hard things. I know I had to do that one time with a very elderly priest. And he was he was just causing havoc. So I actually had to take his keys, and then he wanted to know who took my keys. so yeah, those are very hard. But the facility now was it a special facility, a nursing home, or a special facility for just people with Alzheimer's? Or?
It was a nursing home. It was a
Okay.
long-term care facility. They did have an Alzheimer's unit there.
Okay.
She was never in the Alzheimer's unit
Okay.
because I felt she didn't need to be
Okay.
there. She wasn't an aggressive person. So we kept her in the regular long-term unit. She was there for 7 years.
She was in the unit for 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
So wow.
Yeah.
But one of the, I guess, the safety factors in some of these places are that they don't wander on their own or open the
Right.
door on their own, and now we don't know where they are, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, did she know she was there?
I think there may have been moments of realization of that. She was mostly silent during her time there, but she had 24-hour lucid moments where she spoke. During those days that when she spoke, sometimes she would talk to me as if she were home. So when I would be visiting with her and I was getting ready to leave, she'd say, Diane, shut the lights off in the hallway, shut the light off, and lock the door, or go help yourself and have a soda out of the refrigerator.
That's mother. Mothers never lose it.
And I thought, well, okay, if she thinks she's home.
Sure.
You
I'll go
know.
have a soda.
I said, Mom, I'll go help myself, don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she knew you.
She did. What I learned through this, and her moments of speaking were miracle moments to me. I learned a lot, you know, about, you know, humanity and just the strength of a person and the fact that maybe not all memories are lost. But when she spoke, she would say my name. And there was only one time she didn't recognize me, and she said, "You're not my daughter." But only one time. And all the other times
How
she
hard
knew
that
me.
is, though.
That was hard to hear.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think she thought I was the help.
Yeah.
You know, she thought I was like the activities person or the aide, and
Well, you were that too, but you also had to be our daughter.
yes,
You know.
yeah.
Wow. The care, though, that some of the nurses, caregivers give, isn't it marvelous to see some of the people, how they do take care of everybody?
It's phenomenal. It takes a lot out of the caregiver because it's a very agonizing disease to watch.
Sure.
You're watching the person change, you know, before you.
And they become their family too.
Yeah.
You know, that's the when Mom was changing like this, you know, and you said her moods would change sometimes. Would she sometimes, you know, get upset or get angry or?
Yeah,
You know?
she did. There were occasions where she would call me and be angry at me for no reason at all. And I thought, gosh, what did I do? And then a day or two later, when you talk to her, it was as if nothing happened. And that kind of was an indication that she wasn't aware of her behavior and what she was saying. And she had moments like that early on. Yeah.
Now when you've worked with your mom and medical people, is there a lot going on in the medical profession now that's helping folks with Alzheimer's? I mean, are they coming up with some things that are giving people hope?
There are medicines out there, and they're developing new drugs. There's new testing that can detect early Alzheimer's, and a lot of this is in development as we speak. So that's really wonderful. It gives me hope, and hopefully hope to other caregivers as well.
What were some of the tests that they gave Mom, or what are some of the things that they're doing today to help folks?
Well, the test that my mother went through years ago, there was not as much available, about 8 years ago, 9 years ago. But she went through it at basic memory testing with her family physician, and the family physician would monitor her progression, basically. But besides the memory testing, she went for an MRI of the brain, which can determine whether or not the person's had a stroke. There's blood work you can do. There's, the testing they're doing now, I believe there's some spinal fluid type testing where they can determine whether there's early signs of Alzheimer's. Again, I think it's all in development phases at this point, but it's promising.
Yeah, I think anything that's going to give us a little hope and a little, blessedness with each other. It's that quality that you yearn for.
Sure.
It's just. Tell me some of the chapters in your book. Anything, how did you progress through this?
The book was written. I wrote it as a style of short vignettes, short stories, and I would relate events that happened in life or at the nursing home, and I would come upon a situation, like the little boy in the bakery. I went into a bakery one day, and the little boy couldn't decide what pastry he wanted. And he's saying, I don't know what flavor. Do I want chocolate? Do I want apple? And I stood there, and I was very impatient because I had to get to work. But then I thought of my mom, and I thought, wow, is this what must be going on in her mind? What did she feel like? Was she as indecisive? Did she know what she wanted? Decision making. So those are pretty much how I work the chapters. And I would tie in a story about a daily life event, an experience, and then an experience of Mom, and what she went through.
Sure.
So.
Sure. There was a chapter, I think, on restlessness.
Yeah.
And you quoted Victor Hugo. Have courage for the great sorrows of life and patience for the small ones. But sleep in peace. God is awake.
I have to admit, it took some years to feel some peace. And I don't know if it was ever completely there. But courage and strength was something I prayed for. When you see someone changing before your eyes, someone who you knew was very vibrant, needing to be fed, needing to be changed and put into a wheelchair, there's definitely a lot of prayer that's needed. And I had many sleepless nights, while she was home and I was caring for her. Even initially when she was in the facility, I needed to transition and kind of come to terms with the fact that she's okay, she's taken care of now. This is the best I can do. So I took comfort in that.
Yeah, I think so. And just sometimes, Diane, I think to know that they're well, even if they're not maybe doing things that you would wish they could do, because I do think that there's an inner peace that can come, and more I hope folks really realize just the dignity. We spoke before we started our little program about a poem that I mentioned, and I'm not quite sure if I have the name of it, but it's something like "Look at me, look closer at me." I think it's called, and it was about a woman who was in a nursing home and really was talking to the nurses, and it was marvelous. It was just went to. From like I'm a 3-year-old girl, and now I'm bouncing, and then when we went to her getting married, and then it was now I have little ones on my knee, and and to think that we it's really all of our stories, because none of us I think are as learned as we were maybe when we were younger. But it also just is nice to know that that there is a great God who does bless us, and we do need courage, and we do need strength, and as long as they're as long as they're comfortable and at peace, and can maybe even laugh a little more, and maybe watch a program. You know what I have in my mind sometimes, Diane? I wonder if like the entertainers or ball players or those kind of people realize how much comfort. I mean, I know they make a lot of money, so that's their comfort too. But just how much comfort they give people in nursing homes and hospitals, and who can watch a game or watch a play or watch music or dancing.
It's true.
And really, it's I always think of God saying, you know, in the scriptures, you know, you fed me and you clothed me. Sometimes I say, yeah, and you played baseball for me, or you danced for me, or you sang for me, or whatever it happens to be. Because it does give them some joy. You know, faith is a beautiful gift too. And how about yourself? You know, in your own faith, to give you maybe some of that patience you talked about from Victor Hugo.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how that was a strength for you?
What I started to do is I realized I needed to put my worries and my cares into God's hands. And I couldn't handle this on my own.
Sure.
It was just too overwhelming.
Sure.
So I really relied on my faith to carry me through this. And one of the little traditions I had with my mother, each evening I left her, is I would bless her forehead. And I would just say, you know, may God protect you and the angels watch over you. Because always as a caregiver, you leave the facility and you think, is she okay? She's not going to fall out of her bed.
Sure.
So it helped to comfort me as well. And I felt like I was, you know, blessing her and bringing her back in touch with her faith, which is important to her. So.
You know, there seem to be like basic instincts that last.
Yes.
I mean, I've seen myself as a priest in hospitals and praying with people. You know, and as you start the prayer, I mean, they might not know who you are, but all of a sudden they start to bless themselves, or they start to do something that almost instinctively comes out of them from the time they were a kid, I guess, you know?
Yes.
And it also just seems that maybe they know more than we think, you know, and maybe they're probably also saying, you know, they're getting ready, you know, for when God completes the love cycle in their life, so to speak, you know. It's, but sometimes I think you can almost see their eyes. I always think the eyes are the pathway to the soul. And when you do pray with them or talk to them or just tell them you love them, sometimes you can just almost see that there is a twinkle and a joy that says, yeah, thank you.
True.
And you know, as hard as it is for like yourself, Diane, I often thought, what a gift. Not an easy gift, though, but what a gift to be able to, at the end of a mom's life, dad's life, to be able to be with them. I know it's not an easy one because it takes time and strength and love, and it takes our stomach away, so to speak. But you know, when you were born, they held you and they said, "Oh, you're so cute," you know, whatever else.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think, what a nice gift to be able to know that because I do think they know by a touch, they know by the sound of your voice that, you know, that you do love them, and I think it's a nice gift to give them as their life kind of progresses to God's home, you know. You wrote a book, you've talked to lots of people. What advice do you give to anyone who's journeying? I say journeying because that journey is different for everybody, I guess.
It is.
But what advice do you might want to leave with some folks about one suffering from Alzheimer's, or how you might do that?
I would say to seek support, you know, there's an abundance of resources available now. There's caregiver support groups, there's reading material, there's websites that are wonderful for caregivers. Seek that support. The friends, maybe that can help you walk through this journey. It's very important for the caregiver also to take the time for themselves, the respite that they need. There is respite care available also. And to remember that the loved one with Alzheimer's is there. They're very present. You know, despite appearances to the contrary, they're still present and they understand. You know, and that's important.
Do they like to party? I mean, like if you go visit them, I mean, is that something if you bring, if you can, I guess you can do this, and bring a little ice cream or, you know, make something a day special, even like a Mother's, not every day special, but sometimes you want to just celebrate something that maybe whether they're fully aware or not, but at least it helps.
They do. you still don't enjoy. I mean, you still enjoy some of the finer things in life, you know. And my mother had her moments where she enjoyed celebrations, and you could see in her eyes.
Sure.
You know, she was thrilled to have that present on her lap or the card to read. You know.
And isn't it a wonderful thing for like some of the volunteers? I know as I go as a priest sometimes to places, you know, once in a while they'll have somebody playing the piano for them, and they and I get a kick out of it. So I don't know if they always can do these things, but sometimes they'll know, or the nurses will tell them, or maybe like, you know, daughters or sons will tell them, and they'll get, look, if it's a Sunday afternoon, they'll get a little dressed up because this is we're going to have a little show going on here.
Yes.
And once in a while you can see them like tapping their leg, you know, or singing along or something of that nature,
Sure.
you know. So I think it's a nice blessing to let the volunteers know, or the nurses know, that they're really doing a marvelous gift.
Yes.
You know. So then, how was it? Mother went to God.
She went to God about a year ago, March 25th. She died on the Feast of the Annunciation.
Well, that's a little blessing for you. You know. Now, how about yourself afterwards? I mean, is there a time when you need to recoup or talk some more or talk it out?
There's a transition. You know, when you're used to dealing with someone who's in a facility as a caregiver for years, there's a transition period. And you know, I think I'm still going through that to a degree. You know, but you never forget
No,
who the person was. I mean,
never forget.
yeah.
Would you advise others to maybe write their own book, or at least jot down stories so they can help them, you know, go through the loss or the pain themselves?
I would recommend caregivers not only do their own writing if they can, even if they share it, you know, if they don't want to share it with everyone, just among themselves, just to write for therapeutic benefit, but to record your loved one if they're having a lucid day, to take photos, you know, do the things that'll keep the memories alive for you when they're gone.
Because I've always believed this, Diane, that every story really is a story about God, and every story is a blessing. And certainly, moms and dads, and they deserve all of the gifts that we can give them and all the blessings we can give them. And I think storytelling helps us to kind of let go a little bit and to enjoy a little bit. Diane, thank you so very, very much. For more information about Diane Currie's book, Before My Eyes, log on to iUniverse.com, Amazon.com, or BarnesandNoble.com, and type in Before My Eyes in the search box. Write your own story. Be a blessing. Most of all, love your loved ones.
Today in America, 1 out of every 6 children lives below the poverty line, struggling every day just to hang on. Will you help? Go to povertyusa.org and get involved.